For the longest time, it felt like Apple basically forgot the iPad mini even existed. It was the neglected middle child of the tablet lineup, getting table scraps for updates while the Pro models got all the shiny new toys. It's been an afterthought for years. But if the latest whispers creeping out of the supply chain are legit, Apple is about to give the mini a massive glow-up that actually puts the rest of the iPad roster on notice. According to reliable sources, the strategy here is changing big time. They aren't just giving us a good enough tablet to pacify the holdouts anymore. They are quietly turning the mini into a high-tech test lab for features that haven't even hit the mainstream models yet. I'm not exaggerating here. Let's separate the real leaks from the noise, because if you love that small form factor but hate that it usually feels 2 steps behind the big boys, you're going to want to hear this. First off, let's talk about the screen. This is the part that usually makes people complain about the mini, and for good reason. We've all heard the gripes about the annoying jelly scrolling issues, and frankly the fact that the LCD panel just feels distinctly dated compared to the OLED screens we carry in our pockets all day. Well, it looks like Apple is finally ditching that old technology and moving to a stunning 8.3-inch OLED panel. This is a massive shift. We're talking about deep, true blacks, colors that actually pop without looking artificially saturated, and that infinite contrast ratio that makes watching movies on a flight a fundamentally different experience. If you do a lot of reading, the text is going to look incredibly crisp, almost like ink on paper. Those of us who remember dropping entirely too much money on our first Pioneer Curo Plasma TVs know exactly what a difference true black levels make. What's particularly interesting here is that Apple is actually giving this OLED screen to the mini before they roll it out to the iPad Air. Why the sudden VIP treatment for the smallest tablet? Well, apparently Apple likes to use the mini as a bit of a guinea pig. Since the mini doesn't sell in the same astronomical volume as the standard entry-level iPad, they can test out this new display manufacturing process without taking a massive, company-wide risk. If a batch of screens has yield issues, it's a much smaller fire to put out. But for us, that means we get the premium tech first. It's a rare win where the early adopters actually reap the benefits without suffering the usual beta tester headaches. Now let's get into the brain of this thing, because this is where the rumors get genuinely wild. Reliable supply chain chatter points to the new mini packing the A19 Pro chip. Let that sink in for a second. That is absolute undeniable overkill for a tablet of this size, and I frankly love it. Putting an A19 Pro in an 8.3-inch tablet is like dropping a Corvette engine inside a golf cart. We aren't just talking about swiping through Safari a little faster. You're going to be able to fly through heavy applications, scrub through 4K video timelines on a plane, and run all that fancy new Apple Intelligence software without the tablet even breaking a sweat. It reminds me of the time we first saw the jump to Intel processors in Macs. It just completely changes the ceiling of what the machine can do. Apple is clearly building this thing with serious longevity in mind. They want to make sure it can handle whatever computationally heavy, AI-driven features they dream up over the next 5 or 6 years. You're not just buying a tablet for today, you're future-proofing yourself for the back half of the decade. But hold on, because there is a feature being whispered about that sounds like it's straight out of a late 90s sci-fi movie. Get this, Apple might actually remove the speaker grills entirely. Yeah, you heard me correctly. No more precision-milled little holes at the top and bottom of the chassis for sound to escape. You're probably wondering how exactly you are supposed to hear your Netflix shows in a hotel room without headphones. Well, the rumor is they're moving to a vibration-based audio system, utilizing piezoelectric technology. The entire metal and glass frame of the iPad would essentially become the speaker driver, vibrating to create sound waves. It sounds insane on paper, right? But there's a very practical, real-world reason for it. If you get rid of those speaker holes, the iPad instantly becomes significantly more water and dust-resistant. You could basically use this thing out by the pool, on a boat, or in the garage without worrying about a rogue splash or a cloud of sawdust ruining a very expensive piece of tech. My only real concern, and this is something we'll have to test in the real world, is what it actually feels like to hold. If I'm watching an action movie with heavy bass, is my hand going to be vibrating the whole time? Back in the day, holding a buzzing pager was one thing, but holding a vibrating metal slab for a 2-hour movie might feel a bit like holding a novelty massage tool. We'll have to see how Apple's engineers handle the haptics, but if anyone can dial in the precise physics of it, it's them. Design-wise, don't expect a total visual revolution on the outside. It's likely going to retain that sleek industrial all-screen look we already know and appreciate. They might trim the bezels down a millimeter or two, which is always welcome. And because OLED screens are inherently thinner than LCDs, they don't require that bulky separate backlight layer. The entire tablet might shave off a fraction of a millimeter, making it feel even more like you're just holding a raw sheet of glass. And yes, it looks like Touch ID is staying exactly where it is, integrated right into the top power button. I know some folks have been clamoring for Face ID across the entire lineup, but honestly, on a device this size that you pick up in all sorts of weird orientations, Touch ID is perfectly reliable. It's a utilitarian choice that just works, plain and simple. So the million-dollar question, when can we actually get our hands on this thing? The current production schedules are pointing toward the second half of 2026, So we're looking at a standard September or October launch window, likely dropping right alongside the iPhone 18 event. That is admittedly a bit of a wait. I know patience isn't always our strong suit in the tech world, but for a Mini that finally boasts true pro-level specifications, I think it's worth keeping your powder dry. Plus, it gives us time to see how the software evolves to actually take advantage of that ridiculous A19 Pro chip. Now for the part of the rumor mill that always stings a little bit, the price. Right now, the current generation Mini starts at around $499, but when you factor in a top-tier OLED screen, a flagship processor, and potentially a radical new speakerless chassis, that price tag is almost certainly heading north. Most credible insiders are saying we should expect the base model to start at $599. That's a firm $100 jump. It's a chunk of change for a small format tablet, and it's definitely going to make practical buyers pause and do the math. Is it worth an extra $100 for a vastly superior display, a monster processor, and a vibrating frame? If you're the type of professional who uses your iPad for hours every single day for reading dense PDFs, traveling, or unwinding with a game, then yeah, the math probably works out in your favor. But if it's just going to sit on your coffee table to check emails once a week, it might be tough to justify the premium over a base model iPad. I'm genuinely curious to see if the speakerless design actually makes it to the final production lines. It feels remarkably like one of those classic Apple moves where they do something incredibly bold just to see if they can pull it off. Reminds me of the absolute uproar when they killed the headphone jack. Everyone lost their collective minds, the sky was falling, and now a decade later we all just have our AirPods and don't think twice about it. This could be their next brave hardware move. I'll definitely be keeping my ear to the ground and checking the supply chain chatter as we slowly march toward 2026. But for now, the iPad Mini 8 is shaping up to be the first time in a very long time that the smallest iPad is unequivocally the most interesting device in their entire lineup. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the latest intelligence we have. I'm honestly looking forward to it, even if my wallet is already sending me warning signals about that $599 starting price. What do you guys think about all this? Would you gladly pay a premium for an OLED screen on a Mini? Or do you think Apple is risking overcomplicating a device that was already perfectly suited for its job? Drop a comment down below and let me know where you stand. I always appreciate reading your takes on these hardware shifts. And if you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay ahead of the curve, consider giving the video a like and subscribing. It really helps keep the lights on around here. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.